Clive, thank you. Good evening and welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. Taking it to the streets, farmers make their feelings felt at government plans to change inheritance tax.
Today isn't about blocking food supply or impeding people going about their daily jobs. It's showing the government that we are angry, we are worried and things must change.
We'll hear from farmers and ask if the protests will do anything to change the government's mind. Also tonight, left bedbound after catching COVID. We hear from a Skara woman with a 10-month wait to see an NHS specialist. Celebrating the life of Liz, a new exhibition featuring the teenage photographer from Harrogate who had a royal seal of approval.
I'm at retired engineer Stuart's house in North Derbyshire and he has created another winter wonderland. But what is this year's theme? Find out later in the programme.
Well, it's been another featureless day. This was the view at Langset in South Yorkshire. So when will we see the sun again? Well, join me to find out.
Hello, thanks for your company this Wednesday evening. First tonight, farmers across our region have taken to the streets in protest at government plans to change inheritance tax. In York, over 100 tractors drove through the centre of the city first thing this morning. Farms had been exempt from inheritance tax, but the budget in October imposed a 20% tax, half the normal rate. Farmers say the change will impact small local family farms and affect the face of farming forever. The Prime Minister insists the vast majority of farmers would not be affected. Here's Louise Fuster.
Tractors from across the region started to arrive at the livestock centre at Merton from dawn. By 9 o'clock, more than 100 had turned up.
I'm yet to meet a farmer that is not impacted by this. There's no detail yet, and from what we can gather, it all relies on people dying in the right order, which is just fundamentally crude. You know, we're having to have some really difficult conversations.
My dad is coming up 82 years old and they've just suddenly introduced this tax and they've said, well, you can speak to your accountant and you can plan and you can gift property away, and if you live 7 years, that's the same for everybody, there's no inheritance tax. But when there's a 80-some-year-old, they're going to be lucky to live 7 years.
Before heading out onto the road, some of the farmers gave rallying speeches showing their support of the protest. And then, in convoys of 20, tractors drove through the centre of York, passing iconic sites along the way.
Most of the tractors have now left Merton and are on the way through York city centre. A handful of them have stopped off here at York Minster to get their message out there, to try and get that public support. We've heard lots of tooting from horns. People have been waving at the tractors as they've been coming through the town centre.
They work extremely hard and don't make a lot of money. I know they've got a lot of assets, but they're feeding the nation.
They're being disadvantaged by the new rules that are being brought in for inheritance tax. It's just wrong, totally wrong.
My dad was a farmer and I know just how hard they work. You know, it's very hard work. It's not like 9 to 5, 2 or 3 days a week.
Along with the protest in York, farmers were also driving through Baslow as part of their day of protesting around Bakewell and Chesterfield.
Today isn't about blocking food supply or impeding people going about their daily jobs. It's showing the government that we are angry, we are worried and things must change.
Well, farmers are now urging the government to get back around the table, talk to them and rethink the changes to inheritance tax for agricultural businesses. Louise Fuster, BBC Look North, York.
Thanks, Louise. Well, the farmers we've seen demonstrating today about those changes to inheritance tax say they're worried about the future of their industry and what will be left for the next generation. But how do those young people feel? Well, it put them off a career in farming, for instance. Well, Carla Fowler has been to Askham Bryan Agricultural College in York to find out more.
So this is the BR tractor.
Yeah.
Have you been on a tractor before?
I've been on a tractor.
In its 75-year history providing land-based education and training, Askham Bryan College in York has seen farming transform. So it's constantly adapting to provide the skills young people need to succeed in careers in agriculture. But now farmers face multiple obstacles: high costs, record inflation, increased weather disruption and, more recently, changes in tax regulation. 16-year-old Eleanor has family who farm in Yorkshire. She wants to carry on the tradition, inheritance tax or not.
There's been lots of new technology advances. It's something I'm really passionate about and I love learning more. I feel as though it'll be more difficult to start into the industry, but we are such a strong community, so we will fight through and we will be hopefully better than ever.
Kasim's family in Nigeria had a small holding. Now living in York, he's a level 2 agriculture student committed to farming.
Agriculture is always something that I liked. I grew up around animals. It's something that I can develop my passion for in Askham-Bryan, and they have so many opportunities with all the different animals that I can progress with in my agricultural industry here in the UK.
Here, agriculture can be studied at every level. Reese completes his degree next May.
It's a beautiful industry. There's so much in the world that you can do with agriculture. You don't work farming, you live farming. Farming has its challenges, but that's why we need to diversify into new technological advancements like our robot that we have here on site. And there's always a way that the farming industry will be sustainable.
It will always evolve, agriculture. It's met many challenges before. This is just another challenge that we will deal with. They're very resilient, the learners that we have coming through here, as is agricultural in general.
Challenges do lie ahead, but the next generation of Yorkshire farmers are preparing to lead the way. Carla Fowler, BBC Look North, York.
Well, our political editor James Vincent joins us now. James, obviously, clearly there's a lot of anger out there. What does the government have to say about all this?
Well, what Reece said in the report that Carla just made there for us today about you don't work farming, you live farming, that's why I think this argument is so passionate, and I think why our farmers are so angry. The government's line on this is the vast majority of farms will not be affected by these changes. It's worth running through very quickly what the changes actually are. April in 2026, inherited agricultural assets worth over £1 million will be liable to 20% inheritance tax. That's half of what inheritance tax is more generally. That's normally 40%. Farmers only pay 20%, but of course it's new for farmers. They've never paid this before. Now, other allowances when you give over farms may allow a couple to hand over a £3 million farm without paying any inheritance tax, but of course it depends on your individual circumstances. And farmers' argument is that they might be asset rich, you know, the land and the machinery, but they're maybe relatively cash poor, and they think that some of them might have to sell farms to prepare for this inheritance tax.
A lot of complex detail around how this will impact various people within the farming community. The farmers, they say it'll affect them. The government say, well, it won't affect as many. Who's wrong, who's right on this?
Yeah, the BBC's done some analysis on this, Phil. Farmers groups sort of suggesting that it will harm up to 70,000 farms. The BBC analysis suggests it will only affect around 500 farms every year. Obviously, that then becomes cumulative over a number of years. And the way that the BBC's looked at that and the way that the government's done its figures as well is based on tax data, so historical claims on tax rather than land surveys and values of surveys. But I don't think farmers are going to accept that. They see this as a new thing for them. The government is saying that they need this sort of money for schools and hospitals, but it's new for farmers. The Environment Secretary, Steve Reed, saying that 3/4 of farmers will pay no more under these new plans, but I don't think anybody's going to see this as solved anytime soon.
No, I'm sure you're right, James. Thank you for helping distill what is quite a tricky issue and complex study. You're watching Wednesday's Look North. Still to come on tonight's programme, we'll take a look back at last night's football action and the race for top spot in the Championship. Next tonight, a woman left bedbound following a COVID infection 4 years ago has criticised her NHS care after being told she faces a 40-week wait to see a hospital specialist. Deborah Seymour from Scarborough has been diagnosed with illnesses including long COVID and ME. But despite tests, no physical cause has been found for other symptoms, including severe head and neck pain. Our health correspondent, Jamie Coulson, has been to meet her.
Like I've been buried alive. Yeah, I'm suffocating. For Sylvia Snow, it's been heartbreaking to witness her daughter's decline. Deborah Seymour used to be fit and well, but 4 years ago she caught COVID-19 and is now bedbound. She's been diagnosed with illnesses including long COVID and ME, but also suffers a range of other debilitating symptoms that have not yet been diagnosed, including severe head and neck pain. Unable to be interviewed directly due to extreme sensitivity to light and sound, she recorded these thoughts on a phone.
I've lost everything. Yeah. I can't even see my children.
She's got no life whatsoever now. I mean, before she was working, she was studying. Now she can't be in contact with anybody whatsoever. She's in great pain.
Last year, Deborah had 2 emergency admissions to Scarborough Hospital, but on both occasions doctors were unable to find a physical cause for her symptoms. Following the first, for shaking and sensitivity to light and sound, it was suggested there might be a psychological element, although she was assessed and discharged by a mental health team. On the second admission for headaches and neck pain, doctors could find no obvious physical cause.
If it was psychological, there would be a reason for it, but nobody's given a reason. I think it's a convenient diagnosis.
In August, Deborah's GP referred her to a neurologist at York Hospital, but she was initially told the waiting time would be a year before a second letter reduced it to 40 weeks.
How do you feel about the treatment and care you've received?
I haven't had any.
York Teaching Hospitals has said it's working hard to reduce waiting times made worse by the pandemic and industrial action, and said it's aware that some patients are waiting longer than it would like, especially for routine referrals. The Trust has apologised for the inconvenience and worry caused. Meanwhile, Deborah's family say they just want help. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
OK, let's get some news in brief now. A man's been arrested on suspicion of murder following the death of a woman in Barnsley. The 56-year-old was found unresponsive at a house in Summer Lane in Wombwell on Tuesday and later pronounced dead. South Yorkshire Police said a 58-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of murder and was being held in custody. The police watchdog says officers did respond appropriately to concerns for a woman who later suffered catastrophic injuries inflicted by her family in Huddersfield. Ambreen Sheikh's husband and in-laws were jailed earlier this year after she was forced to take medication and left in a vegetative state. 2 police officers had carried out a welfare check weeks earlier when concerns were raised, but they reported she was fit and well. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says officers acted in line with policies and guidance. A government committee to scrutinise the proposed assisted dying bill will feature 5 MPs from our region. The committee is made up of 14 MPs who voted in favour at last month's initial stage and 9 who voted against. They're being chosen by Spen Valley MP Kim Leadbeater, who brought the controversial bill to Parliament. Also involved are Labour's Naz Shah, Marie Tidball and Jake Richards, as well as Lib Dem Tom Gordon. Public hearings expected to last several weeks will begin in January. Now, a union is warning that strike action at Leeds Bradford Airport could cause disruption to some flights over Christmas. About 50 workers who are members of the Unite union are walking out because they say they're not being given extra payments for de-icing work, which are offered at other airports. Well, Tom Ingle is live outside the airport for us tonight. Tom, what more do we know?
Evening, Phil. That's the lights of the airport over my shoulder here. Maybe if you're jetting off for a winter sunshine break, you'll be looking forward to seeing those. But sorry to do this to you at Christmas. You're going to have to check before you travel, because if you're flying with Ryanair, you may possibly face some disruption. Ryanair relies on a company called Swissport. If you're a regular aviation traveller, you'll know Swissport. They drive those little trucks around the tarmac, they move planes, they handle your baggage, and crucially, in the winter months, they carry out icing work on planes and then sign paperwork to say those planes are fit to fly. Now, workers for Unite the Union got an extra payment of around £125 a month for carrying out that de-icing work, or at least they did up to COVID, and then those payments stop. When the workers here at Leeds Bradford found out that other employees of Swissport at other UK airports were still getting those payments, they balloted for industrial action. They've gone for 16 days of action between the 19th of December and the 4th of January, so right over that Christmas break period when the airport could be busy with people travelling away. The airport say they're going to do all they can to keep flights on the move. We've got a statement from Swissport in the last 10 minutes, and they say we've been in open discussions with unions regionally and nationally, with all parties fully engaged. These have been productive to date and will continue. Clearly, if you are getting away for the winter break, you're going to need to keep up to date with this story.
Tom, thank you very much. Tom Ingle live there at Leeds Bradford Airport. Now, last night, you may remember we brought you the story of teenager Liz Hatton, the brave young woman who had a photography bucket list which inspired many people, including the royal family. Liz died almost 2 weeks ago from desmoplastic small round cell tumour, a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Well, today she was remembered in a celebration of her life, which included an exhibition of her photography. Nicola Rees went along.
Elizabeth wanted fun photos, not boring pose ones.
For Vicky, today is about celebrating her daughter's life. Liz Hatton was a gifted photographer from Harrogate who spent her final weeks doing exactly what she loved.
The last few months of Liz's life were her happiest. She was at her brightest and her best. She had her camera everywhere, and every single one of these photos is a memory from that time and from before of when she was happy, because Liz was always happiest behind a camera.
Before she died, Liz came up with a bucket list of things she wanted to do and posted it on social media. It led to her working with top photographers, taking pictures at London Fashion Week, film premieres and at Windsor Castle, which came with an added surprise.
In walked the Prince and Princess, and it was certainly not what any of us were expecting.
Liz died in November, just 10 months after being diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer, desmoplastic small round cell tumour.
She was very determined she didn't want a funeral, so we will be looking at her photographs. We will be eating lemon drizzle cake and discos and sweets, and we'll be raising money.
Oh, I've never had that. Oh, I had.
All of Liz's favourite things are here, along with all the people who loved her.
Just looking at her work, I started crying because I just thought about how proud I am of her. And I remember I sent her a message, and I knew she wouldn't see it, but I just wanted to make sure she knew how proud everyone was of her.
I mean, obviously it's just so terribly sad that we've lost her with such a talent, so young. But yeah, she was a really, really lovely person, and she'll be hugely missed.
She loved me, she loved her family, she loved really everybody that cared for her.
The family wants better research into rare cancers so that other people don't go through this.
We are going to set up a charity for desmoplastic small round cell tumour, the first in the world, and we're raising money via Just Giving Liz Hatton or Just Giving desmoplastic small round cell tumour.
Liz's death was felt locally and nationally, but her talent and her photos live on.
I don't feel sad when I look at any of them. I just feel so much joy that we had the moment.
Nicola Rees, BBC Look North, Harrogate.
OK, let's turn our thoughts to football now, and the festive season's upon us, so I wonder who will be top of the tree this Christmas. Sheffield United know exactly what their job is tonight at Millwall because they just need to win. That's exactly what Leeds United did last night to reclaim top spot in the Championship. With that and the pick of the other action, here's our man Paul Ogden.
It's as if the two Uniteds, Leeds and Sheffield, are conspiring to enhance the drama as they toil shoulder to shoulder to get back into the Premier League. Whichever wins seems to thus reclaim the summit. Leeds last night had their own fans gripped by the tension, first taking the lead against Middlesbrough and then scoring at the wrong end when Max Verber headed into his own goal to make it 1-1. But the final chapter belonged to Leeds, whose finishing qualities brought two more goals from Dan James and then Brendan Aronson to complete a 3-1 victory. Leeds United's 8th in a row in front of their own euphoric fans, who are rightly beginning to imagine welcoming Premier League opposition again next season. Less enthralling last night was Sheffield Wednesday's home defeat to Blackburn, though even that had an influence higher up the table as Blackburn Rovers moved up to 5th position with their 1-0 win at Hillsborough. Wednesday's tendency at home, by the way, is in sharp contrast to Leeds, having won 2 of their last 10 in front of their own fans. Still, Sheffield Wednesday are 12th in the table. Away from the league, the EFL Trophy is becoming quite interesting now, particularly for our 3 clubs through to the last 16, which will be staged in January. Bradford City clearly fancy going a bit further than their semi-final appearance last season, the Bantams beating Stockport 3-2 last night and featuring yet another Andy Cook goal, but 2 on the night besides from Callum Kavanagh. Chesterfield also beat a team from the division above them, Wigan, by the same 3-2 scoreline. Dylan Markande effectively winning it for the Spirites with their 3rd goal of the night. And similarly, Rotherham United were also 3-2 winners against Tranmere, Rotherham's 3rd goal scored by Hakim Adofin ending up being decisive because Tranmere eventually pulled a consolation goal back afterwards. Taking no further part in the EFL Trophy this season will be Huddersfield Town and Doncaster Rovers, who were both knocked out, losing to Bolton and Port Vale respectively. Paul Ogden, BBC Look North.
Well, we'll stay with the beautiful game because Farnsley Celtic Football Club say Captain Lewis Turner is conscious and talking after suffering a suspected cardiac arrest during his side's FA Trophy match away against Gateshead. Play was suspended after 28 minutes and the game was later abandoned last night when the 32-year-old collapsed on the field. Lewis Turner underwent treatment on the pitch and a defibrillator at the ground was used. He's now recovering in hospital. And of course, all of us here at Look North wish him the very best in that recovery too. Now, it's 2 weeks until Christmas, if you didn't know, and this story will really get you in the festive spirit. Every year, retired engineer Stuart Bennison from North Derbyshire lights up his home with an incredible festive scene. It's extraordinary. Last year's was inspired by Home Alone, complete with Kevin on a zip wire. It raised £3,000 for charity. Well, Mark Ansell has been in Holy Moorside tonight to find out exactly what Stuart's done this year.
Yes, welcome to Holy Moorside and welcome to Narnia. Now let me introduce you to the man who's created this incredible display. Stuart here is a retired engineer. Stuart, how long has it taken you to create this incredible display?
Well, we started in September and from then on it's been absolutely all on to get this together. The reason we did it the way we've done it is because of the different areas of features with as you can see coming round, you've got the Snow Queen on the sleigh.
And I can see Aslan there.
Yeah. Aslan, of course, is the lion. You've got beavers over here. You've got, if we go this way, you've got the whole area where you've got Santa, and he's giving out all the swords, the ammunition at Mr. Tumnus, and you've also got Lucy, who were together in the beginning, and they're in front of the wardrobe.
Yeah, crucially the wardrobe that they've climbed through to get to Narnia.
The wardrobe, and that's where you're into the whole scene of Narnia.
And I can spot the castle in the distance over there.
We've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed doing it, and to see it now, as it now is, it's very, very nice. It's for the children. It's for the donations to Ashgate Hospice and also Crisis at Christmas, just to help, because that's what it's all about, really.
And you raised £3,000 last year. Talking of children, let me introduce you to your grandchildren, because these guys here, what do you make of what your granddad has done this year? Incredible, eh?
I think it's great that we get to support a local charity and just make everyone feel really Christmassy.
And Arlo, what do you make of it?
Looks brilliant.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And finally, let me introduce you to some of the residents here in North Derbyshire that have travelled down to see this incredible display tonight and to donate some money to the 2 charities that they're raising money for. What do you make of it this evening here, coming down to Stuart's house?
I think it's absolutely incredible. I think you see so many nice Christmas displays this time of year, but with the moving sleigh and all the extra stuff, I think it's a different gravy. It's nice to come and see.
Absolutely, well said indeed. Now, Stuart's told me that this is his last year, but I reckon I'll be back here again next year to see what he's been up to.
You never know.
Thanks very much, Stuart.
OK.
Thank you, Mark. I'm sure Stuart will be back by popular demand. And finally tonight, we asked you, if you will, please send in your photos of your pets looking Christmassy. And this next pet has clearly taken inspiration from Aslan the lion. This is Gemma Gosling's golden Labrador, looking very regal as a festive lion. I didn't know there were such things as festive lions. You see, you live and learn on this programme, isn't it?
Is that real, or is it just being placed over his neck?
But I have to tell the viewers that you came in bounding in because you've got some very exciting news to reveal tonight.
I can't believe it. I've always wanted one. Lincolnshire County Council have bought a brand new snowplough and they're naming it after me.
That's
Can you believe it?
Do you know, I always thought weather presenters were slightly sad. Now it's confirmed.
The best Christmas present ever. Anyway, I've got a couple of pictures I can show you before I get onto the forecast. We asked for those sort of animal pictures. It looks a bit miserable there.
I mean,
somebody needs to tell him it's Christmas. And then look at this bonkers picture. This is Brian in Bridlington, who's got an upside-down Christmas tree. Can you beat that? Well, send your pictures in. Addresses on your screen right now on X, Instagram and on the Weather Watcher website. Right, let's have a look at the headline for tomorrow. It's still drab, overcast, dreary, a little light rain and drizzle at times. Despite the fact high pressure's in charge, it should be dry, but maybe tomorrow we'll have a bit of drizzle. This cold front's really important. It's going to come down Saturday morning, clearing all this cloud out of the way, and we'll see lots of sunshine developing as we head through Saturday. And generally, an improvement coming through Sunday and into next week. But look at all this cloud. There's a few breaks out in the North Sea, but I don't think that they're going to get across us. So I think this evening and overnight it continues to be cloudy. Eventually that cloud will thicken, producing a little drizzle in places. Mistiness over the hills. No need for gritting tonight. Temperatures around 4 Celsius. That is 39 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow's high water times then Filey just after midnight, Bridlington at 1 a.m. So it's a dreary December day tomorrow. Extensive cloud. The blues indicate a risk at least of some patchy drizzle, a little light rain, not a great deal. Mistiness over the hills, brightness at a premium, temperatures coming in at 7 or 8 degrees. Similar on Friday, it's dull, maybe damp, otherwise generally dry. There's that big improvement developing on Saturday. More clouds Sunday into Monday, but at least it turns milder. That's the forecast, Phil.
What's this gritty going to be called? Do we know?
Squall Hudson or Rock Salt Hudson. It's one of those two.
I've heard it all now, and for that, you'll be glad to know that's the end of the programme. Good night.
Isn't it amazing? I can't believe it.